Hello. This is Melusine, and recently I had launched a manifesto explaining my Dark Soul philosophy. And this is an initiatory concept as part of my brand, Fable Alchemy. In the manifesto, I talk about darkness, light, and the kinds of people who embody such concepts. But in this video, I wanted to specifically break down exactly what I mean when I say a dark soul. Who are dark souls? Let's get into it. In a nutshell, a dark soul is a person who embodies primordial intelligence and creative power, and is often attracted to dark matters, and they're also often villainized in some way. Let's talk more about the dark part of a dark soul. Darkness is the original home of the dark soul. The person comes from a time and place before the beginning of time and space. In that place, there was no light, only all-encompassing love and infinite potential. They don't consciously know that this is where they're from, more on that later, but this translates now as a fundamental uneasiness with matters of light. Whether it's lightheartedness, perfection, morality, order, or anything else meant to establish goodness and control. That's not because they are bad and rebellious, but because matters of light often directly oppose the very nature of totality, the total acceptance for expression, energy frequencies, personalities, and spirits. And a dark soul loves and accepts this contradiction all the same, because it's not contradictory to them, but to the light it is. In other words, what is now seen as taboo, macabre, deviant, evil, and otherwise offensive is misunderstood. It's often called dark because it is invisible to the light, and what is not seen as good. But a dark soul is attracted to the invisible forces and hidden details of life because they can sense what the light cannot, and this exercises and affirms their power to see through the dark and find the light in it. So there may be a time and place for darkness, and they may have been whitewashed to think the dark personality traits and behaviors are bad, but deep down they can see through the illusion and even learn to love it. Since these traits and matters are living remnants of where they were first born. Dark humor isn't dark, it's utilitarian and blunt. And dark entities do not come from evil, they come from within. Dark souls are not naive or afraid. They are as ancient as the conscious dark filament that enveloped the cosmos before it learned to speak its first word and generate light. Which brings me to the soul part of a dark soul. In my opinion, gathered from occult research and experience channeling, soul is to spirit what neg entropy is to entropy. Neg entropy is a chaotic force that creates order in the natural world and leads to the regeneration of life. Entropy is the orderly force that falls into chaos and leads to the eventual destruction of life. The soul is a fixed particle that energizes itself. The spirit is a mutable wave that receives energy. One grows in power, the other changes through power until its structure is powered down. One is infinite, the other finite. I've learned that you can see someone's spirit through the energy that reveals it in different ways, like body language, behavioral patterns, emotions, or lack thereof. Such things may even impact the soul. But the soul does not seem to be measurable by such means. It speaks its own word and reveals its own agenda through memories upon memories of spiritual life experiences. We cannot remember all of these experiences as different types of spirits, but we can deduce the language of our soul through systems like astrology, numerology, and the tarot. all of which happen to be villainized by the average person and deemed too dark. Go figure. This is why one cannot consciously truly know that a dark soul is immortal. What they cultivate in spirit may intend for this if they practice a spiritual discipline, but immortality is not meant to be consciously remembered or emulated by the spirit, because it is a matter seemingly only known to the soul. But something interesting happens. The soul mimics both spirituality and physicality. So if it is a memory bank that expresses memory of life as different spirits, it also expresses life through the physical tissues of people. The ancient Chems and Egyptians knew this, and now scientists are beginning to reinvestigate the power of dark matter in such tissues as the brain, where neuromelanin resides. But the way I describe it is this. Some people are more prone to scarring than others. Scars are the results of experience and the empathy that is fostered in the learning process. The dark mark on or in the body directly results from the memory that has been collected from experiences across time and space, forming an armor that remembers how to fortify its own self through the accumulation of more experiences or the integration of past ones. This is what I call spiritual melanosis, how it can beget soul apotheosis. But I'll explain that in another video. I am not suggesting any hierarchy of abilities based on race, age, culture, or life experience, but what the ancients believed was that darkness was a universal, multi-dimensional intelligence that permeates the heavens above and the earth below, expressed on the inside of places and beings as well as on the outside of those things. But this can look like many different things, as darkness has unlimited expression. So, in summary, a dark soul is a person who has lived many lives as different people and different entities and is destined to live many more for eternity. Their darkness remembers what even they themselves often don't, and many times they suffer for forgetting. But if you think that you may be a dark soul, I provide dark archetypal frameworks meant to help any soul reawaken their inner power and rekindle that divine dark flame. Once you do this, no matter if you are a dark soul or a light sprite, or anyone in between, you can live your most luxurious, most meaningful, and most sovereign life. I can't wait to help show you how. Until then, if you learned from this video, I'd love for you to like the video and comment your thoughts. If you subscribe to my channel, you'll receive more insight on dark souls, light sprites, and their respective archetypal content that I've developed as subcategorical mind maps for ultimate sovereignty and success. For now, I bid you a very nice night, and I will see you in my next video.